One day, a master who was about to comprehend the truth and reach the pinnacle of enlightenment searched for someone worthy to inherit the great task he had left unfinished, someone capable of guiding them to the top. Many believed it was nothing more than a fable, a simple legend. But Baek Mu-ryong, the next leader of the Fire Dragon sect, truly believed. He believed because he had been chosen. Alone, he defeated all the other heirs of the clans and cults. He was destined to reach the pinnacle of this world. Well, at least that's what should have happened. In the end, he aged and was abandoned. The ancient god stopped guiding him until one of his apprentices succeeded in an experiment. The first survivor of the immortal body, the creature that had once been a child, declared that he would never forgive the one who destroyed his family. The boy was told to be quiet. Who told the lab rat to say anything? And the leader, Jaik Bum, was told that the boy could already communicate and survive for weeks without water or food. Baek said that was enough. He had waited years for this result, but all they had brought him were deformed monsters. The scientist begged, "Please, master, just a little more time. I promise, I'm almost there." But suddenly his hands moved against his will. He drank the entire solution that turned him into a monster as well. Desperate, he begged the master to spare him. Meanwhile, Baek Mu-ryong himself was weak, coughing up blood and gravely ill. He prayed, saying he knew his god was still there, and asked to be shown the secret of immortality. But the god answered that he was a fool. The immortal body is already complete. At that moment, the dying boy attacked him from behind. Despite his monstrous appearance, his body was whole, healthy, and exuded power. Baek asked why he had been chosen as the vessel. Having dedicated his whole life to him, how dare he betray him? The evil god replied, "Are you sure you completed your task? You still have not understood the truth of this world. What a pity." And then he showed him the truth directly. Baek could not bear it. He fell to his knees in despair, asking if that was really the reality of the world, if all his strength had meant nothing. At that moment, the new vessel of the evil god received his instructions. He knew the boy hated the world that had destroyed his family, and now the god would take care of him in exchange for his vengeance. Thus, the young man swore to destroy everything and everyone, to place the entire world beneath his feet. Transformed into the demon itself, he slaughtered all the soldiers of the blood cult palace. One night, an old man met with his former comrades, a gathering of the powerful. The king of fists, Yuk-bi, laughed and said, "Long time no see, old man." Also present were Jae-su-ri, the Empress of the North, Abbot Ryan, master of the Shaolin Temple, and the current leader of the Fire Dragon sect, Baek Mu-ryong, who respectfully greeted the Sword Emperor. "I hope you had a good journey, sir." But the Sword Emperor replied coldly, "Enough small talk. Did you really think I wouldn't have spies following you since you left the martial world? Now speak." Baek got straight to the point. Wudong, Songon, Rahan, all the prominent states and sects were annihilated by a single man. We don't know their motives or identity. Survivors describe him as a demon obsessed with fighting and slaughter. That's why they call him the Great Mad Demon. And today, we intend to put an end to that madness. At that moment, the Mad Demon himself appeared. What a familiar place! Look, the 5 greats are waiting for me. What a warm reception. The Sword Emperor thought to himself, this title of Mad Demon is not for nothing. It's like standing before death itself. Then he unsheathed his blade. I brought madness to this world. That is reason enough for me to draw my sword once again. His next strike was the Sword of Heavenly Grace, a divine technique. The cut split the great demon's body in an instant. When he sheathed his sword, only a smoking body remained on the ground. Yuk-bi laughed and said, "Ah, it doesn't end that fast, old man. That would ruin the fun." But soon, he and the others were shocked to see the demon's body regenerating. Flesh and blood sewed themselves back together, reconstructing him before their eyes. And Yuk-bi murmured, terrified, "What the hell is that?" Mu-ryong thought to himself, so this is the great technique of the immortal body. No one believed it truly existed until now. The great demon smiled and said, "Impressive, but now it's time for us to have a little fun." Yuk-bi noticed that the Sword Emperor was still close to the demon and shouted for him to get away. But the demon replied, "Don't worry about him. I've already taken care of that. The fun is over. The Sword Emperor fell face first, a huge cut running through his abdomen. He raised his gaze and asked coldly, "Who's next?" The Empress of the North tried to remain calm. "Wait! As leader of the Fire Dragon sect, do you know anything about this situation?" Muryong answered, "I'm not sure, but I saw something about this in an old martial arts book." Meanwhile, Yukbi exploded in fury at seeing the Sword Emperor fall. Even though he was warned to restrain himself, he charged forward, determined to crush the Great Demon. Their impact was colossal, an explosion that shook the entire palace. His punch had enough force to destroy an entire city, but the Great Demon remained unscathed. In fact, his power only increased. He looked at Yukbi and said, "Your martial art is impressive. Accept my gift." Using exactly the same technique as Yukbi, the Great Demon counterattacked with devastating power. Yukbi only survived because Abbot Ryan, the Shaolin master, threw himself forward to protect him, losing half of his left arm in the process. The Great Demon mocked, "You didn't have to be so arrogant, and to think you said this would be nothing. Seems you're suffering quite a lot." Yukbi tried to apologize. "Abbot, forgive me," but the master replied, "Don't say that. If you hadn't acted, I would have. We need to get rid of this monster now." The Great Demon laughed.
A body capable of withstanding the martial art of the King of Fists? Could it be indestructible? He advanced once more, but was intercepted by the Empress of the North, who froze the air around her. Her ice blade pierced the demon's heart. "What an honor," the monster murmured, "to witness up close to legendary ice martial art. What a pity. I'm being frozen to the bone." The ice quickly consumed him. "Indeed, the 5 great ones are powerful," he said with a twisted smile. "You truly deserve the title you carry." Muryong stepped forward. "I'm glad you liked it, because now you're going to die." The leader of the Fire Dragon sect unleashed a slash using his ultimate technique. But that strike wasn't physical, it was spiritual. The demon would be imprisoned forever in darkness. From the wound in his chest, ribbons of energy spread out, wrapping around him like a mummy. He was being sealed, condemned to eternal darkness. In just a few seconds, all that remained was a silent statue. Abbot Ryan, still breathless, asked Muryong, "What was that, Muryong? What did you just do?" "That is the Blade of Eclipse, a sacred treasure passed only to the leaders of the Fire Dragon sect. It said that its slash imprisons the enemy in eternal darkness, but it had never been used before. I don't know how long this seal will last." 3,000 years later, the Great Demon was still sealed, trapped inside a capsule on planet GSP, Zone 3. A group of scientists was conducting research there. Among them, a man named Mark from the Earth promotion team warned his colleagues, "Be careful with those items for God's sake. They're all extremely fragile." Of course, he wasn't alone. His partner and team leader, Lena, seemed distracted. "We finally arrived on this cursed world," she muttered. Mark approached her excited. "Lena, what a surprise to see you here. Honestly, I didn't expect you to volunteer for the GSP team." She raised an eyebrow. "And why not?" "Because you hate aliens, and now you're going straight to the place where all the aliens in the universe gather." As P walked through the crowd, Lena warned, "Be careful, they're dangerous." Mark shrugged. "I actually like this tournament. Here, everyone's on equal footing." "Doubt it," she retorted. "Look at them. They seem so complacent." When she turned around, Mark was already wearing a silly hat and holding a balloon. "Seriously?" Lena sighed. "Fine, stay here in the exhibition hall then." "Yes, ma'am," Mark joked. "Be careful what you say out loud. This place is dangerous precisely because they're not equal. Even a rookie like you should know that." A little later, they arrived at the true stage where everyone supposedly stood as equals, the GSP tournament arena. The announcer declared, "Welcome, spectators from the farthest reaches of the universe. The great festival held every 100 years is about to begin, the chance to elevate the level of your civilization. This is the GSP Battle Tournament." Mark asked playfully, "So, this whole trip was just an excuse to watch the tournament?" "No," Lena replied. "I came to find our enemy's weaknesses." The announcer continued. To the left, representing the Ifrit civilization, rank 972, we have Agni. On the other side, rank 9630, representing Piglo Panon. Meanwhile, in the exhibition hall, where rare earth relics and artifacts were displayed, the researchers carefully unpacked everything until one of them noticed something strange. One of the objects started to move. He mentioned a weird noise and some cracks forming. Another researcher told them he must be imagining things, but at that moment, one of the great demon's eyes finally broke free. He began to look around. It's then explained that on planet GSP, located 500,000 light years from Earth, a combat tournament is held every 100 years, gathering various civilizations from across the universe. The winning civilization attains the truth of all things and is freed from all suffering, disease, hunger, war, and the entire planet becomes united in pride. Earth, of course, was ecstatic. After all, they had been officially selected to participate. The representative was known as the strongest man in the world, and everyone believed he had real chances of reaching the finals. Meanwhile, the battle between the two competitors was heating up, literally. Agni was a massive beast of fire, and his opponent, Panon, was already nearly reduced to ashes, badly wounded. Agni asked why his opponent still dared to look at him. His next attack simply scorched part of the arena, and the audience commented that he was far too powerful for a civilization of that rank. Agni smiled and said they were finally recognizing his power. Watching everything, Mark asked how a human could possibly fight against that, and if Lena was really finding any weaknesses to use against him. It felt like they were just wasting their time there. Lena, a bit shaken, said she felt the same, but had noticed something important. None of those aliens were tier 3 or higher, and since this tournament could completely change the destiny of an entire civilization, she expected different reactions. But it seems that to them, a tier 1 civilization like Earth was insignificant. That's it. Their arrogance will be our greatest weapon. As she spoke, a little piglo girl in the audience cried, cheering for Panana to lose. Mark thought they really had been unlucky in the draw. The opponent seemed to be from a rank 3 civilization. A boy beside her yelled for the fighter to finish off that trash, and the girl retorted, telling him not to say such things. The boy, a bit drunk, laughed and said, "As expected from an inferior race, what kind of manners are those?" Mark warned, "We'd better get out of here. If we stay, we might get caught up in a fight that's not even ours." But the short drunk guy felt insulted. Suddenly, he transformed, grew more than 20 times his size, and became absurdly muscular. It was Mr. Pick, the representative of the Pixie civilization.
Lena, unfazed, mocked him, trying to impress someone by picking on a little girl. "You idiot! Didn't you say your civilization was more advanced than ours? Then why are you acting like an arrogant fool?" Pick grumbled, saying they must be distributing drugs in the audience. "How does a short race like yours dare talk to me like that?" Mark tried to step away. "Hey, leave me out of this. I didn't say anything." Lena continued, "You're so arrogant, a born loser. Good heavens." Pick stomped so hard the stands shook. Mark insisted, "Let's get out of here now." Lena, stubborn as ever, said, "What kind of subordinate abandons his leader?" But before the monster could attack them, a patrol drone appeared, ordering him to stop immediately. Lena explained that these drones handled the arena security. He can't do anything here unless he's fighting officially. The drone asked if Mr. Pixie had caused any damage. Lena replied that he hadn't hurt anyone directly, but he was drunk, showing off, and trying to intimidate them. "Is that true, Mr. Pixie?" asked the drone. "It is," replied Pick. "I was just showing off a bit of my muscles, but that's enough." He transformed back and muttered, "See you brats later." Mark replied, "Yeah, right, blank. I hope I never run into that guy again." Then he turned to Lena and asked if she was really prepared for this kind of thing. "Of course I am," she said. "Do you think I'd come to a place full of dangerous aliens without being prepared?" At that moment, the little girl who had been cheering for Panao approached and thanked them for their help. Lena replied awkwardly, "I didn't help anyone. Now go on, get out of here." She simply bowed to Lena and left, calling Mark a coward. He felt offended but tried to hide it. Meanwhile, in the arena, the fight raged on. The crowd, of course, was almost entirely on Agnes's side, the fire monster that burnt everything around him. Lena thought she already expected a power difference, but this was simply absurd. Agni mocked, "Where's your enemy? Playing hide and seek now?" Lena wondered if there really was no chance for a human to defeat a monster like that. At that instant, flashes of her childhood came to mind. The first time she saw death, war, plague, everything that plagued Earth. But she shook her head. Enough of these weak thoughts. Mark noticed she was trembling. "Miss, are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine," Lena replied, trying to hide it. "Just felt a little nauseous." But the announcer warned that a twist was about to happen. The competitor, Banao, taking advantage of a blind spot, surprised Agni from behind, landing a direct hit to the fire giant's head and slamming him into the ground. The announcer explained that it was a critical strike. While Lena was glued to the fight, Mark received an urgent call. He turned pale and said, "We need to get back to the exhibition hall immediately. It's an emergency." On the way, Lena asked, "Did you double check?" "Of course I did," he replied tensely. "I knew some crap was gonna happen. It's always like that. When things are too calm, trouble's coming for sure." Even so, she commented that it was good they were heading back. She had already seen everything she wanted to, and actually, she even felt more hopeful,
After all, that little Panao had defeated the Great Agni. Maybe planet Earth really did have a chance. But without realizing it, Mark was suddenly struck by a brutal punch and fell unconscious. When Lena woke up, she was being carried by that damned pixie, the same one from before. Mark was completely beaten up. "Awake, huh?" asked Pick with a mocking grin. "Don't worry, nobody's gonna die yet." Furious, Lena asked, "If they were doing this because of the earlier provocation, this is planet GSP. Security will catch you in no time." Another pixie laughed and replied, "You humans are so arrogant, huh? Such a poor civilization. Little do you know that most of GSP's security system was built by engineers of our race." Pick added, "And we, the Pixies, know exactly how to bypass that security. Got it?" Then he spat. "I don't even know how the Galactic Federation allowed filthy earthlings like you to participate." Lena, enraged, shouted, "Shut up! We never wanted to join that damn Federation. It was you who came to Earth. You forced us, threatened us, coerced us. Because of you and the diseases you brought, millions are dying and suffering, and the Federation does nothing." The Pixies only laughed. "We knew it. A miserable civilization. The Federation would never show charity to you. You're just primitives pretending to be civilized." At that moment, a voice interrupted. "Who is this guy? Why did you bring her here?" Another commented, "Maybe it was the Shaolin Temple. They say it's the most respected in the martial world. But, seems the interior has gone a little too extravagant." Lena was confused. Who is that guy? Is he speaking Earth language? One of the pixies shouted, "Speak the common tongue, idiot! Enough of that ridiculous language." Lena realized the man didn't understand anything. He couldn't even speak the common tongue. In Korean, she ordered, "Go to the security room immediately. They're breaking the regulations." But Pick shoved her hard, silencing her. The stranger watched the scene and murmured, "Ah, I see. Looks like not everyone has changed." And suddenly, the great demon attacked. He unleashed an explosive storm, completely disintegrating the pixie who was holding Lena. The demon looked at her and asked calmly, "Well, you understand what I'm saying, don't you? I've got a lot of questions to ask you. And if you try to run, you die. Understood?"
Lena asked, "What kind of questions? And more importantly, why are you so strong?" But he complained, "Hey, you're speaking another language. Speak mine if you don't want to die." All right, said Lena, now in Korean. "We're in the promotional building Z." The demon raised an eyebrow. "Wait a second, this isn't the Shaolin Temple." He was literally stepping on Pick's head. Lena could hardly believe what she was seeing. "Makes sense," he continued. "Too noisy to be the temple of those bald guys." Lena gathered her courage and asked, "Who exactly are you?" She began to study him curiously, looked him up and down, touched his skin. "You don't have any equipment. You're human, just like me. But what was that explosion you caused?" The demon laughed. "You're kidding me, right?" Lena ignored his tone and continued naturally. "What's your identity? Which affiliation are you from?" He replied, "Hold on, you really don't know who I am?" "Of course not. Are you some kind of celebrity?" Before they could continue, one of the surviving pixies shouted, "How dare you, cursed creature!" The demon sighed. So persistent. When the monster threw a massive punch, the demon just tapped it aside, effortlessly. "Talking crap again?" he muttered before slamming his fist into the creature's gut and firing an energy blast that sent it flying away. Lena was in shock. He blocked that attack with a tap? The demon looked at her again and asked, "You really don't know who I am, girl?" Lena thought for a moment. Maybe he really is famous. With all that power, it wouldn't be surprising. It's impossible that no one has ever heard of him. Lena apologized. "I haven't been on Earth much lately. I've been traveling to other planets for work." Mardenwall frowned. "Other planets? What is she talking about? Earth? What's Earth?" Mark woke up, all beaten up, and asked, in shock, "What's going on, Miss Lena?" "I'm glad you woke up," she said, relieved. Mardenwall grumbled. "Where do these weaklings keep coming from?" Mark asked who that guy was. Lena tried to confirm if he really didn't know who he was. "You've never heard of him?" Mark shook his head. Lena thanked the demon for saving her, but admitted she had no idea what he was talking about. She couldn't cooperate unless he revealed his identity. Mardenwall smiled and introduced himself. "I am Mardenwall, the great demon who destroyed the 4 sects." Mark thought he was insane. Lena, on the other hand, said she might have heard that name before,
something vaguely familiar? At that moment, one of the pixies stood up furious. How could you lose to that earthling trash? Mark snapped back. You attacked us because of what happened earlier? Ridiculous. The pixie replied that if it weren't for the suppressor on his body, he would have crushed the humans. The humans grew uneasy, all except Martin Wall, who remained calm. Lena asked if he thought anyone could defeat him in his current state. An onlooker wondered if he was using his full power. Things were getting more and more interesting. Mark suggested they escape, but Lena decided to stay and see what would happen. She thought Mark's attitude was reasonable, rational, but then she noticed something. An enormous power was emanating from that human. She could feel that he had a level 1 potential. The pixie finally removed the suppressor from his neck, swearing he would kill Martin Wall right there if the regulations allowed it. He unleashed all his power, muscles, energy, and being a pixie, controlled electricity. The room, made with pixie technology, reacted. He manipulated the surrounding metal, hurling it all toward Martin Wall. Even after being struck by piles of metal and electric currents, Martin Wall remained untouched. He smiled. Now this is getting fun. Humiliated, the pixie asked how that earthling had neutralized his power. How could he be even stronger without the suppressor? But Martin Wall replied with irony, no earthling could ever be more powerful than me, and kept taking the hits. Without warning, Martin Wall appeared behind the pixie, jumped on him, and started toying with the attacker, analyzing his movements. The demon learned the pixie's technique, electricity and magnetism, and in the next instant counterattacked using the same power. The pixie, shocked, shouted, "How is an earthling using my technique?" Martin Wall just laughed. "Pretty cool ability, bro. But since you were kind enough to teach me, I'll finish you off quickly. No pain, all right?" Feeling even more humiliated for having his technique copied, the pixie was pierced by the demon's strike. Martin Wall said coldly, "I didn't imitate it, I stole it, you idiot." Lena couldn't believe it. Someone from a level 3 civilization had been defeated by an earthling. It was insane. Martin Wall, however, found the martial art interesting and asked to be taken to that pixie's leader. Lena grabbed his hand and asked, "Are you truly an earthling?" It was confirmed, a human, but what kind of strength was that? She said she could introduce him to powerful people. If he wanted, he could become Earth's representative in the GSP tournament. Later, when Mark returned and saw the destruction, he asked in disbelief, what happened here? It was hard to tell who had caused all that chaos. Nearby stood Virtus, one of the judges of planet GSP. He asked Mark if the version he'd heard was true. Judging by the scene, some pixies had been destroyed. A third-level civilization seems to have been defeated. That suggests some other combat specialist civilization had attacked. Mark felt relieved. At least Earth wasn't under the judge's suspicion. It would be nearly impossible to convince anyone that a human had done that. Virtus then turned to Mark and asked, why did he look so worried? Mark replied, I was just worried about my friend. She's an earthling too.
Virtus said Lena wasn't safe. Whoever caused all that destruction could only be a heinous criminal. But he assured him, don't worry, we'll find him. We'll reconstruct the scene and discover who did this. Then Mark remembered the machine capable of restoring memories, and just at that moment, a chunk of the ceiling fell on his head. Virtus overreacted. Don't worry, Earthling, I'll save you. He used an extremely powerful solar laser to destroy a mere piece of rock and declared, I, the great judge of justice, Virtus, will save you and avenge your race. Mark froze at the sight of the gigantic hole Virtus had created with a single attack. He thought, this is gonna be a huge mess. Right after that, we go back 30 minutes earlier. Maiden Wall had just told his entire story, and Lena was amazed. She thought this whole martial world talk sounded like something straight out of a manhwa, but at least it explained why he couldn't understand the common language. It simply didn't exist in his era. But something bothered her. What was that? He absorbed the pixie's power? Could humans really have that kind of ability? Where did we go wrong along the way? While Lena pondered, Maiden Wall turns his back and started walking away. Where are you going? She asked. I don't need your help, girl. Lena insisted. But I said I'd take you to the arena to face the other warriors. Maiden just muttered, I can handle myself. Got it? Still, Lena ran after him. You don't even recognize this world. Maiden replied confidently, can't be that hard. In my time, I crossed all the sects on foot alone. But when he looked around at the scenery, he was confused. Lena laughed. We tried to warn you, you idiot. Welcome to the 26th century of the human race. We're now in
the era of space exploration. She explained that all those beings ahead of him weren't humans. They were aliens from other planets and universes. What's so special about interacting with these bizarre creatures? Lena threw the question back. If you had to rank humans among these species, where do you think we'd stand? Maidenwall replied, I don't know how many creatures exist. How could I rank them? Lena explained, it's estimated that there are about 20,000 civilizations spread across the universe, and humanity is at the bottom of the food chain. Diane widened his eyes. So those idiots you just destroyed belong to a superior civilization? Exactly, confirmed Lena. But be careful with what you say out loud. She explained that all civilizations in the universe are divided into 5 levels. Humans are level 1, and even within that level, they're the weakest. Maidenwall replied disdainfully, who cares about rankings? That's useless. If they cared that much, they'd focus on getting stronger. Lena insisted, but don't you want to fight against powerful opponents? That's what you're after, isn't it? Maiden nodded, curious. Lena continued, there's a tournament that only happens once every 100 years. If you miss this chance, you'll have to wait over a century. And there, you'll find the strongest opponents in the entire universe. Maiden brushed her hand away. You're telling me to fight someone? Lena replied, of course not. You said yourself you wanted to face the strongest. Maiden snorted, shut up, you idiot. You think you can boss me around just because we talked a little? Lena apologized, not wanting to offend him. I just wanted to help. If we do well in this tournament, we can change humanity's destiny. Maiden asked, and what does it matter? Winning some position in a space tournament. It matters, said Lena. A lot. She explained that to advance to a higher level, all it takes is achieving good results in the tournament. Civilizations are categorized according to the power of the cosmos, a vital energy that sustains existence. All supernatural powers only manifest thanks to this cosmic energy. Maiden understood, so if I want to use that power, we have to advance to the next stage. Lena nodded. Exactly, but humans right now aren't strong enough to win. That's why we want you to fight for us. She explained that the benefit of leveling up wasn't just power, but enlightenment, a kind of knowledge impossible to reach otherwise. Enlightenment? Asked Maidenwall. Yes, answered Lena. All the knowledge humanity has accumulated up to this knowledge, which we believe to be the result of centuries of effort, is insignificant compared to the wisdom of extraterrestrial civilizations. Earth received only a tiny fraction of this knowledge, transmitted by the enormous giant brain of the universe. She concluded, level 5 civilizations are the ones that control this flow of knowledge. Those bastards monopolize everything. They do whatever they want with weaker civilizations, crushing them under their feet. Diane looked at Lena and grumbled, this is also boring. Why don't you just admit that you want to use my strength to fulfill some selfish wish of yours? Lena tried to explain, that's not it. What I want is to do something good for all humanity. With your power, you could help us all. But Jowlin replied coldly, honestly, instead of trying to convince me, why don't you find someone who thinks like you? I'm not the kind of guy who risks his life for others, got it? He turned to leave, and at that exact moment, Virtus raised his hand. A blinding light filled the area. With a single attack, the judge disintegrated Jowlin with a star of energy, declaring execution complete. He could never have imagined that such power belonged to a civilization as weak as a human one. Lena was completely desperate, in shock, but before she could react, Virtus approached, saying, for being an accomplice to this criminal, you will also be executed. At that moment, something moved among the debris and a hoarse voice echoed, that hurt, huh?
Jowl's body began to regenerate, using his own blood and flesh until he was completely restored. He stood up furiously and shouted, who the hell do you think you are to leave me in this state, you son of a— Stay right there, you pile of trash. Meanwhile, on the streets of Sector 3 of planet GSP, little Mala, a girl from the Piglo civilization, said, Mark helped me today. Grog widened his eyes. The Earthling fought a pixie for you? These humans are really brave, huh? Cock added, now we owe him one. Soon after, the group reunited with Panan. Mala ran up and hugged him tightly. You okay after all that? Asked Grog. Panan smiled. Relax, I'm fine. But what's that flash in the distance? A crowd was forming around a huge fire, murmuring that Judge Virtus was fighting someone, an Earthling who had killed a pixie. Guloke frowned. That combination sounds familiar. Hearing all that, Mala asked Panan for a favor. Meanwhile, The battle between Virtus and the Great Demon grew more intense. The ground shook, everything was collapsing. After burying the judge under tons of metal, Jal sneered. "That's what you get for blowing up someone's body, loser." But Virtus wasn't defeated. He emerged from the chaos, melting the metal with absurd power. "How the hell did you get the cosmic power of the pixies?" shouted the judge. Jal grinned. "Regretting it already? Too late for apologies." He then unleashed the earth-splitting kick, creating a massive destructive wave. As everyone evacuated, Lena stayed there, watching. She wanted to understand what was happening until someone grabbed her behind. It was Panan. "Stay quiet. I'm here to save you." Lena was startled. "You're helping me because of the little girl?" Panan looked around, tense. "They were supposed to just grab you and get out of here." Grog shouted, "Mala's with Kuloke. Hurry up." Lena asked, "Why are you taking me?" "We're returning the favor," explained Panan. "That's how the Piglo civilization works." They ran off, carrying Lena in their arms. "The Earthlings have to get out of GSP right now," warned Panan. "If the judge decides to go after the entire Earth, no one will be able to save humanity." On the battlefield, Virtus blocked Jal's next strike, preparing a colossal explosion. But Jal moved fast. He was already behind the judge. Virtus reacted with another attack. A massive hand of energy appeared from his back, firing a huge laser that hit Jal squarely, leaving him completely charred. "Let me go!" shouted Lena. "If you're going to save someone, save him, not me." Grog replied, "We'd never beat a monster like that." But Panan insisted. "She saved Mala. These are our ideals, Grog. We have to help." Then they saw a charred body, torn in half. It was Jal himself. "It's him, the other Earthling," shouted Lena. Panan widened his eyes. If he's fighting Virtus, then he's still out there. And then he appeared. Judge Virtus materialized behind them all, wrapped in pure energy, about to incinerate Jal's body. But suddenly, Jal spat blood and opened his eyes. "How the hell is that guy still alive?" exclaimed Grog. Even Panan couldn't believe what he was seeing. Over 30% of Jal's body was still on fire, and yet he remained standing. Virtus looked at him surprised. Regeneration? Something like that could never exist in a normal Earthling. Then he ordered, "All Piglos, step away from the crime scene. We're arresting these criminals." Grog whispered, "This is our chance." "Do you think we'll survive this?" asked Panan. "Yes," answered Lena. "He just needs to recover from his wounds." Then Panan had an idea. "We need to register him immediately for the tournament. If he's officially recognized as a fighter, not even Judge Virtus can do anything to him whatever he wants." Grog scoffed. "For God's sake, Panan, you're insane." But Panan stood his ground, ready to face the judge. Grog called him an idiot, but still helped Lena carry Jal's burnt body to the registration office. Virtus roared, "You really think you can escape me?" But before he could fire anything, Panan stepped forward, determined to stop him. The cosmic power of the Piglo race was shadow manipulation, and Panan was there using the power of his ancestors to help the one who had saved Mala. That was the ideal of his people. Meanwhile, at the GSP tournament registration office, the clerk said she didn't understand anything they were saying. Grog apologized, but insisted they needed to get registered as soon as possible. Lena then introduced herself as Earth's representative, but the clerk remarked that guy didn't look good at all. Jaywall retorted that he was fine. After all, he had ultra regeneration, and told the woman to just register them. All the commotion had drawn a lot of attention. Some people began to whisper, doubting whether the Earthlings would even take part in such a weak and decadent civilization. The clerk, pressured by the crowd and the tension in the air, began to break out in a cold sweat. Grog noticed several other races approaching, shouting that they wanted to register too. Everyone wanted to take advantage of the opportunity. After all, if there was an Earthling in the competition, defeating him would be an easy and profitable victory for any of them. Under all that pressure, the clerk finally decided to finish the registration, but when she looked around, Jaywall had disappeared. Lena and Grog looked at each other, desperate. "Where's that idiot?" Meanwhile, back on Street G in District 3, Virtus had already defeated Panan, who lay unconscious. He looked at him with contempt and asked whether it was really worth sacrificing one's life for those weaklings. But before he could react, Jaywall was already preparing to launch another devastating blow from behind. Virtus counterattacked with the power of light, but Panon completely enveloped him with the power of darkness. J-Wall then appeared and shouted, "You can only judge Earth's power after feeling the impact of one of my punches." The next strike was so strong, it ripped Virtus's helmet off. Meanwhile, in the exhibition hall, Mark was still there, trying to convince himself none of it was his fault. He thought that if he had stayed beside the team leader, the situation might have been even worse. When he saw the explosion caused by the judge, he wondered if they were still fighting. It was then his phone rang. It was Lena calling.
Back in the arena, Virtus covered his face, furious for having lost his helmet. "Damn you, you destroyed equipment granted by the gods." Gel smirked, provoking him. "Not bad. You took one of my strong punches. Guess I'll take this fight a bit more seriously now." Virtus roared, "I'll never forgive you." He unleashed a barrage of attacks, but Gel dodged them easily until a powerful laser hit him, throwing him far away and vaporizing part of his body. Mark watched anxiously. You guys seeing that?" Lena answered through the communicator. "It's him. And at least he's alive." Grog asked, "Did that lunatic regenerate again?" Mark shook his head. "Not yet. And honestly, this isn't the time to feel relieved. He's far from okay." Gel was completely charred, struggling to regenerate slowly, but still breathing. Virtus raised his hand. "This ends now." But at the last moment, a female voice echoed, "Stop!" It was Kyranos, the registration clerk. "The Earthling is officially registered as a tournament participant." Virtus turned, confused. "What are you talking about? He was here the whole time?" Then we go back 30 minutes earlier. Chaos filled the office, with many voices shouting, "Register him! Register him! Racist! Register the Earthling!" Kyranos was exasperated. "This will never work. Not even if you call management." Lena snapped, "Be more flexible with your job, you idiot." Grog shouted, "Yeah, you racist!" Then one of the competitors suggested, "Isn't there a system to register players who aren't physically present?" Another confirmed, "Yeah, I've heard of that too." Kyranos paused for a moment. Yes, that policy did exist. She just never expected such a low-level civilization to know about it. "Fine," she finally said. "Fill out this form." She handed them the document, but Grog frowned. "What the hell is this? It's written in the language of high civilizations." Kyranos replied coolly, "Naturally, that policy was created for the convenience of superior races." "That's ridiculous," complained Grog. But suddenly, Lena grabbed the pen and began writing calmly. Everyone stared at her in disbelief. Kyranos thought, she's bluffing. But when she checked the form, everything was perfectly filled out. How does this Earthling know that language? She thought, astonished. Back in the present, Virtus glared at Lena furiously. How can an Earthling know the language of high civilizations? Kyranos thought to herself, an Earthling's brain shouldn't even be capable of understanding a single word. She must have memorized everything word for word. But now, she looked at Virtus and finished with a smile. It's too late now. It's illegal to cancel his registration. Virtus said he would think about it later. For now, there was someone willing to risk their life for him. And now he had a helper capable of secretly teaching the language of higher civilizations. It seemed the entire universe was conspiring to save that Earthling. All right, he said, I'll let it go just this once. Then he immediately transported Jinwall to prison. Meanwhile, Mark reported over the phone that Jinwall had vanished into a yellow light. Lena was in shock, but Kyranos tried to calm her down. Relax, woman. He just sent the Earthling to prison. Right now, he's probably in a recovery chamber or something. A week later, Jinwall was still recovering inside a capsule filled with various devices. His abdomen and left leg were still missing. Do you really think that thing will be able to compete again? Mark asked. I know he'll recover in time, Lena replied. But then someone appeared saying she always said that. To him, it looked like the boy was merely clinging to life. That was Claris Eve, commander of Team Earth. He commented that he had put too much trust in Lena, the group leader, and decided to proceed with the original plan for the competition, which would begin in 2 days. Lena begged for more time, but a young man appeared saying, trust me, okay? It was Marshall Blade, the most powerful man on Earth. Lena looked surprised and pleaded, please, Jinwall, wake up. Claris replied, there was no need to worry. Marshall was indeed the most powerful human and had been personally chosen by him Moreover, the armor Marshall wore represented the peak of human knowledge. He was confident that after this match, no one would ever dare to underestimate Earth again. At that moment, the narrator explained that the Bizerians, currently ranked 10,320 among all civilizations, lived on a hellish planet, an immense rock covered in toxic gases and lava. To survive, they had pushed their bodies to the limit. Their representative, and Earth's next opponent, was Croc Jybrik. Lena explained that Croc was famous for his endurance and physical strength, and they should be very careful when fighting him. But one of the Team Earth members interrupted, "Enough with the details. They're from a civilization on the same level as ours." The team manager Marshall Steele added, "Leave it to us. Everything's gonna be fine. No need to worry so much." He also told Lena to take better care of herself, mentioning that her branch had been destroyed. At that moment, a robot appeared, transmitting a message. Competitors should head to the waiting room for the next match. Marshall Blade stood up and said, "It's our turn now." Lena tried to stop him. "Wait, I've prepared a complete strategy." "We don't need that. Just enjoy the show," he replied with a confident smile.
Where does all that confidence come from, you idiot? These aliens won't fight under Earth's rules. The only way to beat a superior civilization is through analysis and strategy. We need tactics and intelligence. But the commander himself drew a gun and fired in Lena's direction. Of course, he didn't hit her, it was just to scare her. "That's not what I want to hear before a fight," he said. "You're underestimating humans way too much." Marshall intercepted the bullet in midair, and the commander laughed. "Ha! This old man's going senile." Even so, he stated they had put a lot of effort into that preparation. "This is our best year," he declared. Marshall Blade activated his armor and said, "Trust me, Lena." "All right," she replied reluctantly. "Then I'll cheer for you." But Lena wasn't confident at all. The narrator thanked everyone for waiting so long and announced, "The preliminaries of the tournament's 8th bracket are about to begin." Mark, eating a snack that looked like a giant insect, wondered when Lena would show up. Then she appeared, grabbed a tiny book herself, and asked, "Why are you eating alone, kid?" "Actually, I'm not alone. I met some of your acquaintances." There were Grog and Panon, ready to watch the match. "Are you two following me?" asked Lena suspiciously. No, pure coincidence," replied Grog, laughing awkwardly. "And we're lucky. The opponent from Earth isn't even that tough." But Panon noticed that Lena didn't look happy at all. At that moment, the narrator announced the entry of Earth's representative, Marshall Blade, the human warrior. Grog looked and asked, "Where's the guy? Where's that musclehead who was supposed to represent Earth?" Panon replied, "He must be still in the recovery capsule, right?" "Yeah, but how do you know that?" asked Lena. Panon showed a device attached to his arm, a power suppressor. When Jin Wall woke up after his time in the recovery capsule, the power suppressor had already been installed in his body. This type of suppressor varies greatly depending on the species, and Panon asked if Lena didn't find that suspicious. "Actually, I do," replied Lena. "Remember, there was something on his neck." Mark wanted to know what that device was for, and Lena explained, "Some abilities drain the life force of the user even for use for a short time. All civilizations that use cosmic power are required to wear this kind of suppressor when on another planet." Panon added, "And while participating in the tournament, he can't remove the power suppressor." Mark then concluded, "So those martial arts of his, they're not just martial arts, right?" "Exactly," replied Lena. "Jinwall also uses a kind of cosmic power. His regeneration is something unknown and extremely rare." But she grew thoughtful. Based on what Jinwall had told her, that power he and other humans of his era possess was far more than simple cosmic energy. She wondered, what could have happened to Earth during the time he was sealed away? At that moment, the next competitor was supposed to enter, a survivor from one of the most inhospitable planets of the Bicerian civilization. But to everyone's surprise, the Bicerians were being brutally attacked by the Pixies themselves. One of the bold Pixies who had survived the confrontation against Jin Wall recognized something in the arena. "That Earthling, it must be the same one, but he looks different." Another Pixie replied, "I heard he's going to represent Earth. Then it is him. I'll have my revenge." The entire Croak Jabrik race was cheering for him, but Croak never showed up. The announcer grew irritated. Who dares interrupt the match like this? That's when someone stepped forward. Twinks, the representative of the Pixies. "I don't care who you are," said the announcer. "Bring the real competitor back." Twinks answered coldly. "Croak won't be participating anymore. How about I take his place?" The Bicerians were furious, shouting in protest, but the announcer ordered everyone to shut up. "That little guy better choose his next words carefully." Twinks spoke bluntly. "My opponent has still not been punished. He's the Earthling who killed one of my allies." The audience murmured in shock.
"What do you mean an Earthling killed a pixie? That's ridiculous," someone said. Others started whispering, "So, we've been underestimating the Earthlings. They must be much stronger than we thought." Twink shouted, "That bastard exploited my race's weakness to kill one of us. Now I'm here to avenge him with my own hands." Mark looked nervously at Lena. "Isn't this just one big misunderstanding?" Lena replied, "Don't worry, the announcer won't allow it." But to everyone's surprise, he did. In fact, the announcer thought it would make great entertainment. "This is absurd," protested Lena. One of the Bysarians tried to question him. "And what will happen to our race then?" The next instant, his head exploded. "Keep your damn head down," shouted Mark to Lena, terrified. The announcer grumbled, "This match has taken too long to start. Let's stop wasting time." Meanwhile, Marshall Blade was dizzy. Something strange was happening inside his mind. "This is gonna be quite the fight," announced the announcer. "A murderer and an avenger of his own race." The crowd began to chant, "Murderer! Murderer!" Lena ran to the commander, outraged. "This has gone too far. We need to file a protest with the tournament committee." "Protest about what?" "Marshall's opponent shouldn't even be here. They're calling him a murderer, and the announcer's allowing it. That violates every rule." The commander replied calmly, "And what difference does it make? The announcer owns the tournament. He does whatever he wants. He's one of the 6 gods of the universe. Leviathan." Lena fell silent, stunned. "Who can overrule a god's decision?" asked the commander. "Damn it," muttered Lena. "From the beginning, the rules of this tournament were never meant to be followed. Fine, then I'll play this dirty game too."
Meanwhile, Marshall was being pelted with cans from the crowd. "What's with their mood?" he complained. "Why did everyone suddenly turn on me? Who's this guy anyway? He wasn't even in the morning briefing," he grumbled. But he quickly refocused. "Whatever, my goal remains the same." He launched his attack, but Twinks dodged quickly. "Nice reflexes," said Marshall, "but this is just a beginning." Using the technology of his armor, equipped with multiple propulsion turbines, he moved through the air with extreme agility. Grog commented, "That Earthling's not so bad after all." But Panon, serious as ever, just watched. The super punch from Marshall Blade's armor was so powerful that it knocked Twinks down. The explosion was so massive that many thought the fight was over, but the commander was not convinced. He was genuinely worried about Marcel himself. When they first met, it was during an impossible mission, just the two of them against all the criminals. They were hiding, the commander injured, planning to sacrifice himself by drawing enemy fire so Marcel could escape and deliver the message. But no, Marcel fired a shot, distracted the enemies, and said he'd handle it himself. After countless bullets, punches, and stabs, Marcel came back carrying the bodies of the criminals, saying they'd both return to headquarters together. That was exactly why the commander had chosen him as his representative. But Twinks was standing, completely unharmed in fact. Marcel remarked that he had impressive endurance, so he'd just use another trick. In the blink of an eye, Marcel's left arm was ripped off and thrown aside like a piece of meat. He screamed in agony, completely destabilized. "What the hell just happened?" he shouted. Twinks asked why he was so surprised. Hadn't he ever fought his race before? Marcel replied that he had no idea what he was talking about. But before he could react, he was struck by Pix's magnetic power, which melted his entire armor. Twinks asked if that was really the right guy and ordered Flock, the bald one, to check. "It's not someone else, sir," confirmed Flock. Twinks that he never imagined someone like that could have defeated Lord Pick. Then he demanded to know where the killer was hiding. A moment later, Marcel's leg was torn off as well. The commander and the entire audience were shocked and horrified. Marcel, now missing his left arm and leg, was brutally tortured by Twink, while Marshall screamed that it was enough. But Marcel, panting and bleeding, replied, "Of course not! I'll never give up!" His next attack, however, was stopped with a mere snap of Twink's fingers, pinning him to the arena floor. Twink even yawned. In his control room, the commander wept in rage and humiliation. Then Lena shouted, asking who Twink thought he was to end the journey of an entire civilization. "The Earthlings have only begun," she cried, throwing something wrapped in cloth into the arena. "I'll leave the rest to him," Lena added. Flock, seeing that, said, "That's the guy. He's the one who killed Pick." Jal growled, "The next time I see that guy, he's dead. Where the hell is he now?" Meanwhile,
Marcel lay on the ground, completely destroyed. Mark was trying to contact the team leader, not knowing where Lena was. She called him immediately, and later, in the corridors, she was running away carrying Jinwal's body. Mark couldn't understand anything, and of course didn't agree. She was practically carrying a corpse. Panting with exhaustion, Lena apologized before acting. She said it was for a good reason and that she'd explain later. Then, she punched Mark to distract him and fool the guards. Afterwards, she slipped away unnoticed and threw Jinwal's body into the arena. "What the hell is going on down there?" shouted the announcer. "Get that woman out of there immediately! That filthy race!" "Filthy race?" Lena snapped back. "Isn't he a warrior who defeated 2 pixies by himself? He's considered trash? He's the true representative of Earth, the great insane demon!" Madanon commented. "That was quite convenient, didn't it?" The audience moved, reacted. Lena continued, "If he accepted a substitution out of revenge, then he'll approve this one too." Grog laughed. "This Earth is really funny." Panon replied, "Say what you will, but that's a bold move." The announcer agreed. "Yeah, impressive for an Earthling, but it's too late. The match is over." "No!" shouted Marcel. "I haven't been defeated yet." "He's still alive?" the announcer asked, surprised. "All right, substitution allowed." Lena smiled. "That's enough. The future of Earth has been preserved." One of the guards grabbed her. "You're going straight to prison, you idiot." "He'll make you pay," she replied. Twink sneered. "That guy killed 2 pixies? Impossible. He's not even awake." But then, Zhao finally woke up. "Where the hell am I?" he roared. His energy was so intense that it shattered the power suppression collar. Sapien watched in awe. "His power? Not bad at all. I didn't expect this kind of entertainment from planet Earth," Jinwal muttered. "Every time he changes places, it's louder than before." Twink grinned. "I've been looking for you. Now I can finally avenge my race." Diane asked, "Is he from the same race as those weird energy guys or whatever?" "I'm no longer interested in that weak race, kid," replied Twink, preparing for battle. He simply turned to leave the arena, saying he'd first find Lena and figure out what was going on. But Twink, with his magnetic power, grabbed Jinwal's arm and pulled him back into the arena. "There will be no mercy," warned Twink. The blow shattered all of Jinwal's fingers. Twink remarked that there was something wrong with his body. Tana said that Jinwal not only killed his race, but dared to mock their inferior civilization.
Jinwal crashed violently to the ground, but quickly recovered. His regeneration had kicked in. However, his arm was broken right where Twinks had grabbed him. He had no idea what that judge had done to him. At the moment, he could only use his immortal body. Every other martial art was sealed. Damn, he thought. All he could do now was fight like in the old days. A blow from Twinks' extendable arm pulverized his body. Everything was destroyed. Yet, Jinwal reappeared with only the upper half of his torso. He jammed a finger into Twinks' face, shoved his thumb into the opponent's mouth, and struck his jaw, forcing him to swallow a piece of his finger. Even after being completely crushed, only his legs remained. The audience realized the extent of Jinwal's power. He had literally disintegrated a Terran. In disbelief, Twinks asked what had just happened to make him eat that. Jinwal replied that as soon as he regenerated, he'd crush him again. Jinwal confirmed it was true. Jinwal burst out through Twinks' mouth and, breaking his opponent's jaw, became fully regenerated. That was an impressive move. That Terran was, without a doubt, a ticking time bomb. Twinks, in turn, dislocated his own jaw to avoid death. Watching closely, Grog remarked that he had never imagined regeneration could be used as a weapon. He told his companion that 1 or 2 more hits would be enough to end the fight. His companion was just as stunned. A woman sitting behind them scolded them for judging only by strength. "You're not as smart as you are strong, huh?" she said. "That Terran has no more chances. That was his only one." Grog found her casual tone strange and asked who she was. She introduced herself as Akraman, a journalist from the Forian Star civilization. She said she had taken an interest in Panon ever since he defeated Wagni, and that only a few people knew he had been involved in the battle against Virtus. "But I have my ways," she added. Panon wanted to know if Jinwal truly had no chance left. Akraman admitted that surviving Virtus was quite a feat, but the real reason for that was the Terran's regeneration. He was a fighting machine, not a strategist. Grog insisted that the boy's abilities seemed to belong to a level 3 civilization. Akraman interrupted, saying they were underestimating the hierarchies. The ranks existed for a reason. A Terran couldn't possibly defeat someone from several levels above. Meanwhile, Twinks had wrapped Jinwal in a mass of metal and electricity, crushing him completely. Grog asked where that had come from. Akraman explained
explained that it had been there the whole time. Many think metal manipulation is just magnetic telekinesis, but Twink's worked metal at the molecular level. He could recrystallize, recompress, and expand it. With so much metal in his body, Jinwoo didn't stand a chance. Twink's then repositioned part of his body out of the attack's range and countered with a blow that split Jinwoo in half. Grog realized the opponent had been hiding this power. Ackerman commented that for a level 1 warrior, keeping an ace up one sleeve made sense. The CSP tournament was watched across the entire universe. Revealing everything beforehand would be foolish. She went on to explain the origin of the metal Twinks used, soul steel, a material linked to the heart of the pixie. Traditionally, pixie were born with iron in their bodies, which they expelled and called soul steel. Once a tradition, later a source of shame when the Galactic Alliance attacked them. The king at the time forced a brutal experiment. He made newborns ingest metal. Many died. A few survived, and a small number developed an even stronger steel. Among them was Prince Twinks, who inherited or received what they called eternal steel and became a master of metal. Upon learning of favoritism rumors and discovering that the caretaker's son had died due to the expulsion process, Twink swore to himself that he would elevate his civilization. That became the fuel for his rage. Jinwoo was whole again. He had even regenerated the clothes covering his modesty. Twinks tried to pierce him with a drill of eternal steel, but even with his eyes not fully regenerated, Jinwoo charged forward and slammed the opponent to the ground with punches. Though his body was being pierced by metal, he kept regenerating and attacking with ferocity. Twinks wondered if Jinwoo was holding back his power. Jinwoo said he couldn't explain it, only that the warrior's flow had returned.
A single strike from Jinwoo caused a massive explosion in the arena. Lena, even while being pestered by the guards, watched every movement closely. Akramin commented, "He was hiding that much power. This changes everything." Pixies have incredible brute strength and defense, but their reflexes and speed aren't that great. Twink struggled to block the blows with his metal shield. Jinwoo, still regenerating his head and smoking, was again pierced by the eternal steel drill and Twink's electricity. But not only did he absorb the attack, he tore out the drill of eternal steel. Twink wondered, how could the pride of our civilization be pierced like this? Another pixie remarked that Jinwoo also seemed to control metals. Twink, confused, couldn't understand. How can a level 1 Earthling have such power? Literally, Jinwoo had taken a piece of the barrier and turned it into a metal staff. Twink, baffled, asked how an inferior race like his dared to steal his metal, then underwent his final transformation, creating a complex armor made of electricity and eternal steel. After dodging the first blow, he said, "Now this is getting interesting. I didn't know you could make armor out of this." Even so, Twink continued to crush Jinwoo with brutal metal punches. He was torn apart and pummeled, but Jinwoo merely dodged while regenerating, thinking about his next move. Twink's armor didn't seem easily penetrable, but Jinwoo remembered something. Once, he had tried to ambush the great and invincible Iron Knight and was defeated, but someone appeared to save him. Mindal, the owner of the Xuan Wu armor, one of the 7 great treasures of the martial world. That day, Jinwoo learned a special martial technique, the True Energy Crushing Fist. He shortened the distance, swiftly dodging the armor's attacks, and struck Twink with the technique. The impact was so immense that it echoed throughout the entire arena. Everyone fell silent, but Twink said, "I didn't feel a thing." The impact hadn't reached the armor, yet Twink drowned in his own blood, shattered within it. Jinwoo commented, "It's not an ordinary metal," but he forgot one thing. The equipment might be the best in the world, but what matters is who uses it, idiot. The robot scanned the armor and confirmed there was nothing inside. The match was over. Twink was eliminated. Grog remarked, "That's the power of a level 1 civilization, kid." Panon added, "If it were that other red idiot, we'd have lost by now." When Akraman walked through the corridors, he said, "It's been roughly 15 billion years since the universe was born. Even if there's infinite cosmic energy, I've never seen any record of an Earthling like him. Interesting." Sapien announced, "He's the winner of the 8th round, representative of Earth." Commander Clara said that in the end, Leader Team Alina had been right. WAP declared it a historic moment, the first time a level 1 civilization had defeated someone from a superior one. But Jinwoo didn't stop. Using his magnetism, he forged the knife of eternal steel and charged that end Sapien. "So you're the pinnacle of this damned world, huh? Let's see." Even with a flash of white smoke, End Sapien was pulverized, reduced to nothing but a pile of bones in the blink of an eye. Sapien commented that it would count as a draw and ordered someone to dispose of the body. A robot reported that the fight had been the most watched event of the hour, with 800 million viewers, a record that hadn't been broken in 900 years. Jinwoo became the star of the tournament, surpassing all the other competitors in popularity. Alina, forbidden from watching the match,
was anxious. She thought maybe Jinwoo could win, but wasn't sure. Then Sapien personally came to get her. Your representative can't come back on his own. He's literally a pile of bones. We performed first aid. He should recover soon. When Jinwoo woke up in the capsule, he asked, "Where was I?" Lena, sleeping on top of him, answered, "You're alive. That ability of yours is amazing, huh?" Jinwoo looked at the devices around him and asked, "What are these things?" Lena replied, "They're to help with your recovery, silly. As long as you wear that collar, you're just another Earthling like everyone else." Jinwoo retorted, "That's impossible. I'm taking this crap off." Lena firmly replied, "Simply impossible." Dao calmed down, took a deep breath, and focused, trying to find his K-core, but he realized his flow was blocked. He simply couldn't move the energy. Lena asked, "So how was the experience of joining the tournament?" Janwall, confused, replied, "What are you talking about?" She explained, "That's right, where you fought that metal guy right in the middle of the arena. What do you think? Want to fight again? If you agree, I can remove all those devices from your body." Dion, impatient, ordered, "Shut up and take him out right now." Lena realized that method of persuasion wasn't working, so she tried another. She released Jinwoo from the capsule, but he grabbed her by the neck and said, "If you don't want to be split in half, take this thing off too." At that moment, poor Marcel appeared, limping with a crutch, saying he came because someone called him. Dion, surprised, asked, "Who's this guy?" Lena explained that that thing around his neck is impossible to remove. "How about a bet? He has to fight this guy here in front of everyone. If he wins, the suppressor gets removed. If he loses, he'll compete in the arena." Basically, she was proposing that he face poor Marcel, who was already missing a leg and an arm.